voting for Donald Trump. Stupid is as stupid does, quite frankly. Now you see, Donald Trump has dropped a couple of bombshells on China. And China thought they had a truce with the United States. Now since Donald Trump has decided it's a great idea to, well, shout all over China again, China's doubting any future relationship with the United States on trade. Why would you negotiate anything with the United States when they just keep on backing out of deals? Keep moving the goalposts. You don't know where the feck you are, do you? You don't. It's like a feckin' GPS that keeps sending you around in feckin' circles. You know, you've been there. Just 'cause some roadwork somewhere. Well, a 1-2 punch from the United States risks shattering the already fragile trade war truce between Washington and Beijing. With Chinese tech companies and students both dealt shock blows by the Trump administration. Yes, they're revoking Chinese visas for the students, you see. That obviously ain't going down very well, especially with Chinese families. Now the shock, yes, Chinese tech companies and students both dealt shock blows by the Trump administration last night, Wednesday night. Within China, things had been looking a little bit better. The two largest economies are China and the United States. Factories started whirring again, the containers started leaving ports again, heading for the United States. And unfortunately, shit has hit the fan again. Now, this so-called trade truce wasn't really a trade truce, it's just that the tariffs were reduced. They weren't as high. The companies like Xi'an and Temo were still paying around 120-odd to 125% tariffs. So anything under $800. Yeah, it wasn't removed for them. So the two jabs from Washington on Wednesday have had far-reaching effects across China, angering families and authorities alike. And they also throw into question the future of the US-China trade talks. Well, exactly. Why would they? If you're not going to stick to it, what's the point? What's the point? Why would you talk with these people? Like for instance, the trade talks between the UK and the European Union post-Brexit went on and on and on, and Europe was had a bit of ambiguous regarding Boris Johnson because he wasn't to be trusted. So they're a bit concerned that any deal was going to be broken anyway. And the UK did. They still are actually going against the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, the agreement that was negotiated. And there are court cases that keep rearing their ugly head against the United Kingdom, involving border checks and what have you. Now, the border checks in the end end up being implemented, on imports that is, because, they decided that they didn't want to restrict imports, unlike the United States, because, they had nowhere else to get it from. And they didn't want the industries, the businesses in the United Kingdom to get a little bit, how to put it, hamstrung regarding just-in-time supplies changes. They've already been delayed because of checks. Now, we've seen what's happened with the United States and these tariffs and stuff getting blocked from entering the United States, and the companies are struggling to get the stuff from elsewhere. And also the increase in prices, which are now filtering to the customer. It's already affecting the figures at the federal bank. And what have you, the federal bank, or was it the finance minister? Anyway, the money coming into the country, right, the exchequer. They've already seen a downturn, okay? So that's going to filter through. Now, customers in the United States will be paying more. They're going to be paying more for all sorts of stuff. Now, Nikon have already said they're going to be increasing the prices of their cameras. So is Leica, for instance, and all the optics, and they're all going up in price. All because of these tariffs. Because you have to pay the tariffs, not China. You have to. It's a tax. All right? So, The first hit came in a Financial Times report on Wednesday and said the moves by the US President Donald Trump had effectively cut off some American companies from selling software used to design semiconductors to China. Now, a Siemens spoke... Not Siemens, and if it's Donald Trump, it'll be orange, but no, Siemens is a company, right? Yeah. Siemens, a spokesperson, told CNN that the US government on Friday informed the industry about new export controls on chip designing software and to China and Chinese military end users globally. Now, these small chips, which power our smartphones, computers, and I suppose a Snapdragon, that I suppose, automobiles, and some home appliances, have been at the forefront of the US-China tech battle in recent years. And the Biden administration had blocked China from accessing US-made semiconductors, not just the semiconductors themselves, but also chemicals and other materials used in semiconductor manufacturing that China was buying from the US. They'd also been blocked. The obstacles were infuriating for Beijing, especially since it poured tens of billions of dollars into the semiconductor industry, aiming to boost production at home and become less reliant on the US and other countries. So China has, of late, been doing pretty much what, sensibly, doing it in a sensible way, or what the United States did. They want to make themselves self-sufficient. They want to be able to cut themselves off from other countries. Now, that does concern me somewhat, because when you do that, it makes me think, why are you doing that? Is it in case of war? Quite possibly. You see, China is doing everything it can to make itself less dependent on foreign-controlled minerals, rare earth, metals, what have you as well. So, why would China renegotiate and expect any fresh negotiation or any fresh deals to have any legitimacy when Donald Trump keeps throwing his toys out of the pram? You wouldn't, would you? You need to have stability so you can plan. And any company does have to. And any country needs to have stability. And for Donald Trump to say all these countries are kissing my butt, wanting trade deals, no, they're saying, what the fuck are you doing, you plonker? We'll use the words to that effect. Fucking idiot he is. He's screwing you, don't you? He's screwing American citizens and foreign citizens, people around the world, what have you, and US citizens who live abroad. There is animosity being shown against them. I suppose on the bright side for them, well, no one's got hold of them and chucked them into some kind of foreign gulag now, unlike the United States. Anyway, what say you? Please leave it in the comments down below. Toodaloo.